everybody stop talking in 3, 2. There it is. Whoops, sorry.
Don't want a road tradition. I need to make sure that something else. Look at that. We already got a thumbs up.
You got a thumbs up?
Oh, we got 2 thumbs up on the video already.
Cool.
Look at that ad revenue roll in.
Are we even monetized?
No.
Not
Okay.
yet. Hey, our views for the last 30 days are up 58%
I don't know what that is.
on the YouTube channel.
ARVs?
Views.
Oh.
Our
Our
views on.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Our subs are up 150% for the last 30 days.
Yeah, we just got 2 more.
With 5.
Yeah. Killing it.
Yep. Okay. I think we're all set. While Donovan is furiously trying to make use of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So you can do some show and tell if you want.
Just trying to make a wood Minecraft sword out of wood. So
Let me get rid of the stupid background. It's stupid.
I am ready when you are.
All right. Let's do it. What's up, Internet? You're listening to the Making Geeks podcast, a podcast for makers, families, and geeks. I think I can see Donovan sweating, wondering if he's going to get everything done in time.
I'm not.
We had to
I
basically
know the
drag
answer to
you.
that question.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not going to happen, but I'm going to try anyway.
I had to basically drag you on here.
I know.
You mean guilt?
Because originally I was like, guys, we've got too much going on. I'm not going to be there on podcast tonight. And then Wes took a big can of guilt and he opened it up like a pull tab, just
I was trying to make
let
your
it
life
fizzle
easier.
for a little bit. You know, get the bubbles out.
So you
So
said
you
you have
got
all
that
these things
fizz
to do
going
on
on?
your laser, then your laser dies. Well,
Yeah.
then you don't have to do those things anymore. So your load
Wait,
is
wait.
lightened.
Did the laser actually die?
Yeah, like it stopped outputting. It stopped outputting. I thought it was an alignment thing. And initially it was because the head of the laser, like that final angle where it goes
Yeah.
down, like that thing was like smoking hot, just screaming hot. And I was like, okay, so maybe the laser is hitting that. And so like I realigned it, I cleaned everything, checked all the connections, tried to make sure that, like I've done 1,000 times before with that laser cutter, and went to go try and cut, and it doesn't even get it's like less than halfway through an 1/8 inch piece of wood on power 12. And I'm just like, oh no.
Sounds like a focus issue. I mean, because when I saw the ones that you were holding up in your social media, those cut lines looked thicker than they probably should have, unless it's all burning.
No, that's burning.
Hmm.
It's I redid
Do you have
the
do you have
bed
air
levels.
do you have air assist?
Uh-huh. Yeah, so that was the initial thing. When it first started fizzing out, the air assist that I had on there, the 3D printed piece, melted.
Yeah.
And just
I didn't
like
use mine very
glopped
long.
everywhere, and I was like, what is that smell? Because I was letting it run while I was working in the shop, and I opened it up. I'm like, oh shoot. So I 3D printed a new one and got it all set up, and then did the whole realignment thing and everything, and it's just
What does the lens look
it's
like?
not. Huh?
The lens is fine?
Yeah, the lens is fine. Everything's fine. I mean,
How are you focusing your laser?
so I have a 3D printed little L
Spacer?
bracket
Mm-hmm.
spacer. Yeah.
Okay.
That I rest on top of the gantry and then adjust the bed to meet the bottom of that little.
Yeah, but
Bracket.
how did you come up with that size for for that. Did you do the line test like we had talked about a long time ago?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Just wondering. I mean, because more often than not, especially with that laser, a lot of it is like a focus issue. So, but
Yeah.
if that was it, that was it. Yep.
yeah, it's just a power output thing, and I can't figure out what's going on with it in order to fix it, and I don't have the time
Didn't
to
you already
troubleshoot it.
didn't you already replace the tube once?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
Actually,
really,
twice.
It's only so many things. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the only
Yeah.
other thing is getting more technical into looking at the wiring on it, and
yeah,
but like you said,
Amperage
chances
time.
of that
load
going
and all
out
that
are
kind of
so
stuff.
slim compared to the other things.
No, but like bad connection on the cathode or whatever it's called.
Yeah, but that would explain why the head of it gets hot, though.
No, I was just thinking about the
Yeah.
power output. I wasn't thinking about that part.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now you get to focus on the other 30 things you're trying to do for your booth.
I know. Today's been rough. Like, I felt like I was on the verge of a mental breakdown this afternoon because everything was falling apart. Like, I'm behind on everything. I have this event coming up in 2 days, and I was like, I can't do this anymore.
You should start building in a buffer for yourself. Here's what I want to do, and automatically chop off 5 things.
Well, I don't. So, like in The Good Dinosaur, you know, the big like
The horrible
what was the
Pixar
one-
movie.
yeah. There's that dinosaur in there that has all the birds sitting on his head. He's like,
Mhm.
this is a flow. Like this is, and it's like this is Dreamcatcher. She keeps me from having unrealistic expectations. I need that. I need a little dream crusher that sits in my shop. It's like I want to do this, this, and this. It's
You have
not
a
gonna
podcast. We tell you every week.
happen. But on a daily basis, somebody to remind me in between these moments that we have together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What have you been up to?
Trying to get acclimated to work. So this is my first full week back to work, and it's pretty crazy. Our enrollment for the school is up a lot. I'm teaching an extra class. So instead of 5 classes, I'm teaching 6. I have almost 200 students for animation classes. One of my classes is overflowing, and it's chaotic. I could probably spend an hour talking about just the situation at work right now. So I'm just trying to balance those things. And even worse, and I talked about this on an Instagram story earlier this week, there was a California state law that was passed that said that California high schools can't start before 8:30 in the morning. We used to start at 7:45, which I loved, but now we have to start at 8:30, which also
Is that a
pushes
budgetary thing or?
No, it was based on some studies that were done saying that students do better in school when they start later because they stay up too late and sleep.
Yeah.
I really don't think we're going to see any difference at all academically because a lot of the other problems are, sleep is important. It's a factor, but it's not a big enough factor like our state legislator thinks. And even worse, we didn't get to vote on it. It was simply some lawmaker said, okay, we're going to do it.
Yeah.
And now we're all along for the ride.
Now the students will just stay up that much later.
Yep. And a lot of it too, I don't know if it's the same in your area, but here, growing up, I either took the bus or I walked to school. My parents almost never dropped me off. Most parents drop their kids off at school now. There are very few that walk anymore, and it creates traffic jams in the street, road rage, and a lot of kids are late because of the parents. So that issue with sleep and the hour still doesn't really get fixed. So it'll be an interesting year, but also because that I'm getting out a half hour later, which completely messes up and changes the rest of my day. And I'm beat every day when I get home right now. It's only the 4th day of work too. Yeah. So.
What about you, Wes? What new bright house remodeling saga is beholden in view this week?
Well, I decided to give my shop some TLC. I replaced the fluorescent bulbs with LED fixture bulb things. and it's basically like Clark Griswold's front lawn right now. It's so bright in here. Um, I'm sure my eyes will get used to it, but it's really bright. Um, there are no windows in this workspace, as you guys know. So I don't really get any sunlight. So I did choose the daylight color temperature, and it is just intense. But hopefully, maybe it'll help some of my videography look a little better. I don't know, when I actually do some, that might be a nice change. As far as outside, the other stuff, our kitchen is completely done now. It's been painted. Yes, yay. Painted. Countertops, like we had our cabinets faced and painted, so they look brand new. Like externally, I got like some spice storage, like slide out things. They're like kind of cool. I found on Amazon. They're way too expensive for what they seem they are. They're like $120 for like total 30 spice things, but they're like vertical sliders. They like, it's like almost like vertical stacks. They slide out almost like I don't know how to describe it, like vertical shelves almost, and they kind of have these rubber bands that prevent them from falling off. They go around to the side, but you can like pull them out.
Oh, yeah.
I'll have to do like an Instagram story or something. They're actually kind of cool, but a little pricey. But I feel I get some use out of it and get a good review out of it. But it's things are slowing down, which is good. Still have to do the last coat of stain, which that'll be the perpetual joke. I think it'll never get the last coat of stain on the deck. But
the last coat of stain will actually happen after the first rain.
Right, or after we move away, which hopefully doesn't happen. Yeah, it's basically all here. And also looking at people's stories about when they're traveling to all these different conferences. I've been doing a lot of that lately. Get some FOMO.
Well, I'm going to get FOMO about Silicon Valley Comic Con.
Yes.
I've been wanting to go to that one for years.
Silicon.
Silicon?
Yeah.
Silicon.
How do you say it?
Silicon, because it's a conference.
Got it.
How do you say it? Silicon?
Silicon.
Yeah.
Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley.
I just call it the Valley.
Uh-huh.
So have you been able to give your new kitchen a test drive yet?
A little bit. Still getting used to the positioning of things. We changed out like where the silverware is. I got the Spartan knife block from our friends over at Missing Digit Workshop.
Yeah.
That's great. Awesome.
I got two of them. So one of them is like steak knives, and the other one is like a kitchen set, like with the different types of knives, like different sizes and stuff. And they're sort of like facing each other at an angle, and they're like basically like lobbing knives at each other over the stove, which is kind of fun.
Stop motion animation. Would be cool.
They're a lot larger than I thought they would be. I think I did see one in person, but it's been many years now. But I got them from Joel and down there in Atlanta, handcrafted. So they're pretty cool. I'm looking forward to doing a lot more in that kitchen. We've got the a Samsung kind of fancy oven. It's got like a double. The internal, I've described this before. The internal oven cavity has like a divider you can put in to basically give it two zones, essentially like mini ovens, essentially. So like if you're cooking two different things, you can actually dial each one into a separate temperature individually, and then you can take it out if you have larger things. There's all kinds of different modes. There's like an air fry mode. There's like a baking, like a bread proofing mode. There's dehydration mode. There's like, it's like convection. It does all these different things, which is kind of cool. So I need to play around with it. And it also has Wi-Fi capabilities, which is underwhelming, unfortunately. Sounds like it would be awesome, but
hack your oven.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, hack your oven.
Basically, they I'm sure the thing I don't like is the thing that they put in there for security reasons. You can't actually activate it remotely. You can only deactivate it remotely. You can tell it what temperature you're going to want the oven to be at, but to actually to start it, you have to hit a physical button on the unit, which I mean makes sense. You don't want people to start a fire, but also if you're stuck in traffic and you have the thing in the oven, you can't really start it remotely either. So it's kind of a toss up. And then I noticed today that I get a notification every time like the oven finishes or whatever. So it's just gonna like pile up my notifications on my phone, which is not something I need more of. So I'm probably just gonna end up disabling that feature, unfortunately. But it's one of those things that sound good on paper, and like when you're like comparing one to another, like online with all the little spreadsheets and comparison things, and then when the rubber hits the road, it just doesn't really pan out. I guess I don't know. Maybe I just need to hack it and put a Raspberry Pi in it.
That's how you do it.
What could possibly go wrong?
Is it a floor standing oven? Is it pretty much the same spot it was before?
Yeah. It's a 30-inch wide. Is that standard for oven? I think it is. It's a standard.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, we had the possibility to get a 36-inch, I think, which is the next size up width, I believe. Don't quote me on that, but it's standard size, and it just replaced the old one as it sat. It didn't move anywhere. Yeah, that's
Cool.
enough about my kitchen boringness.
So I think the main topic that we were talking about doing earlier is talking about Maker Faire, kind of in and of itself, since Donna, you're going when 2 days, 3 days?
Well, 2 days. Saturday. I set
Saturday.
up tomorrow. Tomorrow afternoon is when I'm setting up my booth. Because I got such a big booth this year, I got permission to set up early. Because most people just set up the morning of. But I will be setting up my booth tomorrow afternoon, and then all day Saturday is a Maker Faire. I'm screaming on the inside, but
So I've actually lost track. How many years ago was it that we were at Maker Faire? Was it 3 years, 4 years now? I mean, it's obviously before COVID.
4 years.
It's been
Are you
4
talking
years
about Bay
already?
Area?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, 2018.
2018, I
No.
think.
Yep.
I think 2019, right?
No, because it stopped.
2020 was the first one they didn't have. It just coincided with.
No, 'cause I thought it stopped a year before that, actually.
Perhaps. We're so,
So, man,
old.
4 years. Yep.
We're so old.
Hearing that is
remember.
actually hearing that is actually starting to hurt a little bit. It used to be a joke, but now it seems like it's actually coming true. Yeah, 4 years ago, I think we were actually at Maker Faire, which is when we did our last live show. And after that, if anybody listening isn't really familiar with the story, the company went through a restructuring. If I remember correctly, and either one of you go ahead and chime in and correct me if I'm getting any of the facts wrong. But the parent company that owned Make wanted to kind of pull out, which caused a restructuring of the company, and which also caused a stop to the Maker Fairs, partially because of the cost. They
Well,
weren't.
it was a stop to like everything, wasn't it? Make Magazine, Maker Faire. All the staff got laid off.
I mean, Make Magazine came back, but Maker Faire was kind of permanently closed. And part of it is that it was never really a very good money-making venture. And even though it was fantastic for the community, the parent company basically just wanted their money back. I'm saying this secondhand from what I've heard from people who were pretty close to the internal events that happened. And there's hopes that the Maker Faire would come back in a kind of a new incarnation with the reimagining of Make, which is supposed to be a little bit more of a streamlined company now, with their online site and the magazine. And I think they did okay coming back with the magazine and still trying to build a community, but Maker Faire, other than the local ones, was all that came back. The bigger flagship Maker Fairs still have not returned. And I don't know if there's any indication that they will, because there was the...
When you say flagship Maker Fairs, so you're talking about New York and Bay Area? Or are those
No,
considered
there's a third one too. There was New York, Bay Area, and I think it was Washington. There was one more. They also had some overseas. I don't think they would consider this flagship, but there's like in Italy there was one, and some other places. But they were pretty well represented for several years, and I think a lot of us, well, I think some people have different memories of it, but we thought it'd be interesting to talk about, is Maker Faire still viable right now? Is that something that we still think should come back in its previous incarnation, or maybe changed somehow to better fit how things have changed in the last 5 years? I don't know. That's kind of the questions we're posing tonight.
Deep question. It seemed, in some regards, at least here in Tulsa, I've been to a few Maker Fairs. I've been to the one here in Tulsa and Kansas City, Bay Area Maker Faire, over the years. This is my 5th year doing Maker Faire booths, and a lot of it seems the same. Like, it hasn't changed, aside from, fewer numbers and more restrictions and whatnot, just because of the pandemic. But it's a lot different too.
So since you're pausing, let me ask you a question based on that, because I've only ever been to the Bay Area Maker Faire. How does that compare to the one that you go to in Oklahoma? Is it just scale, or is it something else too?
I think part of it is scale. Bay Area Maker Faire is definitely an exhibition of scale. Just the sheer amount of things that people create and the size of them is just, it's astronomical. Like the cardboard T-Rex that was like, what, 30 feet tall? Just the sheer scale. Yeah. Oh yeah. And the mech. Yeah. The dragon, there was like a motorcycle dragon that like breathed fire that was ginormous. So Bay Area Maker Faire is definitely where all the grandeur of the make community seems to be focused. Tulsa Maker Faire and Kansas City Maker Faire, they're a lot smaller. In terms of like the scale of the project, there's still a bunch of people that go to them, and the layout is still the same with the booths and the exhibitions and things like that. But just the things that people make on a local level are a lot less than something you'd see at Bay Area Maker Faire.
And to set
if that
the
answers your question.
Straight here, I looked it up. In 2019 was the last one that we went to.
Was it 19?
I got an Eventbrite ticket. And
okay,
yeah,
it's so weird that doesn't line up with
all of our
with
year
the events of my
tracking has
memory.
been destroyed with all the COVID stuff. Like our perception of how long things are.
Well, no, I understand that it has, but I could have swore the shakeup of the company happened right after. Maybe that's what it is, because it happened right after.
Yeah, it was right after.
It was literally right after. Yeah, because we were like, oh, because
a week.
They were taking people's sign-ups for new issues while we were there, and then it felt like within a month they closed. So basically, they knew that they were going to end up folding, and they took these people's money anyways. And
I think we already pissed me off. I think we already knew something was up there, because I remember talking to Ben Ueda that night about the whole thing, because he had a private meeting with. What's the guy's name?
Dale.
Gary? No, Dale.
Gary.
Dale. Sorry. He looks like a Gary. Yeah, Dale.
And the whole scale of the thing was a lot smaller than in previous years, too. Like,
yeah, there was
like
something missing.
Yeah. And it rained, too. I think that was the first time I remember it raining a lot, and I think it forced a lot of folks indoors.
And it was a pretty good rain.
Yeah.
It was a pretty good rain.
There's a lot of outdoor stuff there, and it was just like a combination of things. But
I like Maker Faire, but I'd been 2 or 3 times, and I think after that third time, even aside from the weather, I was actually getting a little bit
fatigued.
Yeah, let's say fatigued. Because I was going to say bored, but I think fatigued is actually a better word.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is that's my memory of it. But we were also presenting there. There was other things going on for us. Both of my kids the other day are like, I miss Maker Faire. And they were kind of like moaning about it. They really miss it. But that was from their point of view as kids, and being able to go there and experience all these things that they haven't, they're around quite a bit, but still not on the scale in that environment.
Right.
So I know that point of view and perception of it is gonna, changes it too.
Well, what did you like about Maker Faire?
You guys,
Yeah.
Yeah.
community.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I'm probably the wrong person to ask, because I'd been there, had gone there 3 years in a row, and I don't think things changed enough to get me excited in the same way for things to see. For people, yes, love seeing people. Donovan, I still remember that like 40-minute never-ending conversation with Patrick Norton that we had, and it felt like we couldn't get away from him. But that was dealing with people. It had nothing to do with other than the opportunity to meet somebody else than the fair itself.
Yeah, that also sort of cemented my feelings as well, and then I realized that it didn't matter as much as to where we met, as long as, or what the event was that we met at. It was more the people. So it could be, as I say all the time, it could be like an international Walmart Greeters Association conference, and we would have just as much fun. Because honestly, like, half the fun is the after event stuff anyways, so it takes even more value away from the main event when, like, the focus is everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And then with the cost of an event such as Workbench Con, it even helps further cement that, because honestly, the total cost for me to go to Workbench Con or to Bay Area is honestly pretty close to the same. Unfortunately, when you factor in like an Airbnb in California and a flight for me to go out there, and it's probably even more expensive for you, Sean, to come out here, because not only is the flight and the hotel, and then the cost of the event itself is intentionally astronomical just to keep looky-loos and whatnot away. But I don't know if the benefit that I get out of that specific offering that they have there really weighs equally to the amount of money that I'm putting out to go to the thing. Like we just had that one conference in Kentucky, not to bring it up again and beat the dead horse right there near the Kentucky Derby, but it cost virtually nothing in comparison as far as the event cost itself, and I had a great time. And then there's a 3D printing conference in Maryland in October called EARF, which is East Coast Rep Festival, and that's like $10 admission. I've been to that one before, and it's like a super fun time. And again, it's just the people that you end up interacting with. Yeah, there's some cool things to see, but a 3D printed thing is, unless it's something really out there, like some crazy giant sculpture of something, it's a little bit of the novelty is wearing off for some of the technology.
Mm-hmm.
Unless it's a giant giant cardboard T-Rex, which is not 3D printed, but those things are so few and far between that it's, I don't know, it's hard.
Yeah, the technology is cool to see, but every time I'm like, wow, never be able to afford that. Oh, that's so cool. Never going to get that.
Wait. So, Stop for a second. Do you not have a laser cutter?
I do.
Do you
I
not
didn't buy it, though.
Do you not have a 3D printer?
I do. That one I actually did buy.
Do you not have a CNC?
Yes.
So, regardless...
But I'm talking...
Stop. Regardless of your reaction being able to afford it, somehow they're in your possession.
I know, because of the community. Because people in this community are absolutely amazing and have helped me pursue this dream of being a maker. Like, I realized that like most everything in my shop, with very few exceptions, have been gifted to me in one form or another. And it's just kind of depressing, but also like really encouraging and amazing at the same time. Because I'm like, man, what would this look like if I didn't have the support system around me that I do? It's just, yeah.
I think that, and I'll only speak for myself here, but I feel like I'm in a weird spot with a lot of the conventions, and whether it's Workbench Con, Maker Faire. There's another one I was thinking of too, and I can't remember what it was.
Maker,
But
yeah.
maybe I think Maker Camp would be a unique one and a little bit different because it's not commercial for the most part.
Right.
So,
Well, yeah.
well, I mean, I wasn't there. I could only comment on what I heard from all of you, but it seemed different because of
Well,
it almost seemed.
sorry. I was referring to the Catskill Maker Camp in New York.
Yeah.
In that specific instance.
Okay.
Which that one is a little more commercially, but the one in
Okay.
Kentucky, which I think should have had a different name because we refer to it the same way, the Maker Alliance Maker Camp
Yeah.
or whatever. Yeah.
But I've been to so many different conventions and industry gatherings over the last 20 years. I've been to SIGGRAPH. I've been to Comic-Con several times. I've been to Workbench Con, Maker Faire. And they're starting to blend together for me, and they don't hold the same value that they might have at one time. Because in a lot of those, I think they actually really cater to almost like a consumer.
Sure.
And I don't feel like I'm on that end anymore. And I actually don't even want to be on that end as much anymore. So I get more out of like person-to-person contact and conversation, which is embedded in all these things. But the huge thing that I'm paying for doesn't hold the same value. And it's hard getting excited about some of those things as of right now, especially with time being limited. I don't seem like I could, cut out for enough time to actually enjoy. I always feel like I'm missing out on the more interesting part of getting together and just hanging out at night or going to breakfast the next morning, whatever it might be.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm curious to hear you guys think. What would an ideal gathering look like? That is some sort of event, not just us going out to Wes's house, but maybe a maker event geared for makers, and not even just like Workbench Con, because even though Workbench Con was for content creators, it was still for a commercial purpose. Let's connect with advertisers. Could you envision something that really was more just for makers?
Honestly, I can't get that much different than the Kentucky one. Honestly,
Okay.
I can't think of anything more that would align with that idea, at least initially. Like, I don't know. You can chime in if you want, Donovan, but I think because all the people that organized that event had never been to a maker event, they didn't subconsciously try to emulate qualities and features found at all these other quote-unquote typical maker events. And so they basically were completely outside the box because they never saw the inside of a box. You know what I mean? And so I think almost accidentally they struck on something that was unique because they didn't have any outside influence sort of changing what their expectations of what was, what it was supposed to be like or anything like that. I think that was a major asset for that event. So I think a lot of those ideas, I mean, we just had, it was a campground, it was a place to sleep. It was not a figurative campfire because for some reason we didn't have a campfire. I don't know why, I guess because all the rain intermittently. But it was almost like a campfire that we gathered around, essentially. It was one building, a central building that had pretty much all the events in it. Tons of different power tools for building things. There was like a community aspect of it because people would donate their time and energy to helping either like a homeschool group, co-op or whatever, like assembling backpacks or something on site for the campground itself as sort of like an agreement to have us allow us to be there, is we would help them with things. And so there was like so many little aspects of it. And also they had kids were, also welcome, which, Maker Faire, that's true. They were welcome there as well, but it did feel more like a family kind of connection. It almost felt like a family reunion of members of a family I haven't met in person. It was really weird. And not to get like super, mushy about it, but in a weird way, it sort of felt like that. And I don't know.
Yeah, totally.
And if we
Like
could
it
replicate
was.
that,
I know.
let's just copy
And
exactly what they did and have our own. It's a great idea.
and in all honesty, like credit to David and all the other guys that put that thing together.
Hmm.
It was a great event. It really was. There was, I think part of it was the fact that it's like when it comes to Maker Faire or Workbench Con or like all of these other conventions and events, there's there's kind of a stressful expectation on what you need to get out of it.
Hmm.
Like you're like for like at Workbench Con, for example, like sponsors are there. You need to talk to sponsors to try and get sponsors. You need to like do this and all. There's like this stress of expectation on your time there and utilizing the opportunity of being at Workbench Con. Whereas, what are we gonna call it? Not Maker Camp, because the Maker Alliance Camp.
Yes.
So that they're like they had classes, there was activities, like all this other kind of stuff, but it didn't feel like there was an expectation on anything. We were just there to be there.
True.
I had my own personal expectations, like I got to go to Wes's welding class or soldering class. I want to try welding because every event that I've been to where they've had welding,
I
like
still
it
have yet
just
to try. Yeah.
I still have yet to try too. I'm like,
Son of a.
how did I
don't know.
still kept a little die
Me too.
because I was like standing in line and I was like, no, I gotta go do something else. But
Next
um,
time.
but beyond that, there wasn't any expectation on anything, and I think having that is just so crucial to having a good time. Like that's not to say that Maker Faire or Workbench Con or whatever is a good time. It's a good time. It really is. Every Maker Faire that I've been to, every Workbench Con that I've been to, they have all been good times. But man, they've been stressful sometimes. And if we go to Workbench Con next year, like overseeing a complicated ARG, like I'm sure that's going to be stressful. Still a good time, but stressful. Whereas, like I would love to go to like anything like a Maker Alliance summer camp, where it's just you're there to be there, and that's the only expectation you have on anything, and I think that's great.
What was the name of the get together that Dresta had at his place where they did the Birth of Dinosaur?
That was
Do
the
you remember?
Catskill Maker Camp.
Was it okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when we say Maker Camp, anytime anybody says Maker Camp, that's what I think of as the Catskill Maker Camp.
Right in northern New York.
Yep.
You said that one was a little bit more commercial. Is that because of sponsors that were part of it, or?
I never have gone myself. I can't say 100%, but my sense of it is that there is it's more there's a upfront cost for camping there because it is a campground, which makes sense. They're renting the thing out,
Yeah.
but it still felt like a pay to play perception from
Yeah.
what I saw from the outside looking in. Whereas
And you have to pay for the classes, depending
pay
on
for
what
the
classes.
right, which makes sense too if there's some sort of cost for the materials. But I believe that's right. Like I think the instructors got paid too, in some fashion to teach it, which is completely fine. But yeah, that also does set up another sort of dichotomy or an arrangement between like information giver and student. There's like a not equal playing field, whereas at the Maker Alliance thing, for the most part, like there's very minimal cost for a lot of these things. A lot of the cost were footed by the people offering the class, which it doesn't have to be that way. It's just kind of how it worked out. But the instructors weren't paid or anything like that, and that does set up a little bit of a difference. And because I'm friends with a lot of these people, I've always felt like there's sort of a like why buy the cow when you get the milk for free kind of thing going on. Like I always felt it felt disingenuous to me. Like I feel like I don't want to come off as saying like I don't feel like I should have to pay because I'm already their friends or whatever to hang out with them. But in a way, it sort of felt like that sometimes. And that's just my unique vantage point, I guess, because I do know a good amount of people in this community, which I don't want to feel like I have to pay to hang out with them, which sometimes in some of these scenarios I can see that feeling, but I don't know. I'm blabbering. Stop me.
No, blabbering is good because it's like one of the things that we have talked about and that we need to talk about more is WestCon. And what would WestCon look like if we put together a West-centric convention? So this is all good because it gets the ideas of bubbling.
Yes.
For
it needs a name change. Would we? I'm not too keen on the name.
We may not give you a choice, but okay.
That's fair.
We'll at least listen.
Westfest.
Yeah. Westfest.
Westfest.
Westfest is best.
I don't know.
But I mean, we have seriously considered one of the reasons why we talk about it is because we've considered doing this, like finding a way to have our own thing without being dependent on Maker Faire or Workbench Con or something like that, where we can have our own little I would say official, not semi-official, like an official event. Yeah.
I mean, no one else is going to say it's official besides us. Like, there's no higher entity that would proclaim this, right?
So what else would you include in your
There have to be video games
Westfest
in some capacity.
Yeah.
There's maybe some sort of retro game element, whether you're trading them or just playing them or what have you. I think that would be a cool thing. That's one of my interests because I would want to do that.
I do love learning something.
Yeah.
At events like this, learning how to solder, man, that I was giddy like a little school kid, because I was like, I made the metal melt and do the thing that I wanted to do. I thought that was the coolest thing in the world. Like,
I enjoy doing that.
D&D. Oh my gosh.
Yep.
That was so much fun. Painting. It's like being exposed to things that I wouldn't otherwise take the time to do.
Yeah.
Is great. Having some kind of interactivity, hands-on, rather than just like Workbench Con is great, but I'm just like, you're just sitting in class and you're just kind of like consuming. Like, you're not doing anything. You're kind of sitting there and consuming. So it's like, I love learning. I love interactivity, being able to do stuff. And so like, that's a must. For me anyways.
Yeah. Even having like activities that are different than what you'd find a lot of other places, especially based on the wide variety of skills that we have in our community too. It can be anything from learning like illustration or graphic design to the soldering to, I don't know, a whole host of different things. I'll teach everybody how to do a walk cycle.
There you go.
Yeah. Because learning animation gets you into motion graphics, which can like
actually
implement into YouTube videos. And
do a stop motion animation kind of seminar.
Yeah. I'd be there.
Everybody will move around their tools on a workbench. And like Frank Howarth.
Speaking of tools on a workbench, I'd like to thank our patrons over at patreon.com/makinggeeks for helping us keep the lights on here, especially the lights on here that I'm pointing up to at my ceiling. They're really bright. Not that their funds help. I'm going off on a tangent. It started so well. Thank you so much for your support, you guys and gals. We appreciate each and every one of you, including our top patrons, Clinton, Jordan, and
Derek.
Thank you, Derek. He see, the problem is he doesn't put his actual human name in a Patreon, and he always says he wants us to call him by his name. But if he would just change his profile, I could, do so much easier. Yes, thank you. Thank you guys so much for your support. We appreciate you.
We haven't done this in a while, but what are you guys geeking out about?
I'm geeking out about a series that came out on Disney Plus. That might have gotten overlooked, but I think it's pretty cool. It's I Am Groot. It's the series of shorts that are, I think they're all 5 minutes each. Before even watching any of the previews, I was kind of like iffy. Do I really want to see this? But I think they're pretty good. In fact, I'm going to be using them as samples in my animation classes of storytelling in 5 minutes and breaking things down. I think they're really good examples. I think you kind of see visually where they cut some corners on the production, but I think the writing is really good, especially for one character that has one line of dialogue, but still managed to tell an entire story, be a very engaging character. I thought they're a lot of fun. I highly recommend it. And they're kid friendly. Unlike another show that came out on Disney Plus that maybe we'll talk about at a later time.
Yeah, it's the Wall-E effect of telling story without dialogue.
Yeah.
I thought it was great. It's also very Pixar. I know they're kind of like one and the same, but yeah.
There's a lot of Pixar there. I see it too. Yeah. Have you guys?
Myself, I recently ran through the Hobbit movies with my son Grant over last weekend, and he absolutely loved them. He even loved the corny, like super drawn out, like barrel sequences in the second one, which were like totally ridiculous. It's like Fast and the Furious, like ridiculousness, like mixed. It was just, after rewatching it, I liked it even less, which is not.
It was for the kids.
It's for the kids. Yeah, it's for the
I
kids.
do have to say,
it's for the kids.
like, to interject, watching that scene in 48 frames a second in 3D was the weirdest experience I have ever had in a movie theater.
Yeah, no. I believe we've talked about this. Yeah, that should not exist anymore. That was horrible. Peter Jackson, that was a bad idea, sir. But yeah, he loved them. He loved all that stuff, and so I'm super apprehensive for the Rings of Power series coming out. I know they changed some things and they've altering the timeline a little bit to make things more interesting. They said they like compressed a lot of the events down into a smaller amount of time because it's such a long span of time that they're encompassing, that the literal lives of humans, they'd go through so many humans in like 1,000 years that they would have like a crazy roster of people they have to keep track of, which makes sense. Like, it's a funny thing to think about, like in a series, like, hey, these lifespans of these characters, you're gonna have to, they're like one episode per human and it's their entire life. You know, if you're thinking of like the span of like how long.
You should see them age during the episode.
Yeah, exactly. With the lifespan essentially of an elf, you know, that's they're and obviously they're immortal, but you know what I'm saying. Like, if you have someone that's immortal, other beings that are not immortal, you're gonna have a really hard time telling the story across those two different time scales that makes sense without doing a ton of jumps and stuff, and time travel or whatever. So I'm very apprehensive. The trailers look cool. Grant freaked out when I told him, hey, there's a series coming out, a TV series with Lord of the Rings. He's like, what? Are you serious? He's like about throwing the table. In a week. Yeah. So fingers crossed. I would love to do a spoiler cast over that first episode. If we could.
I'll watch it. I'm not excited.
We can compare and contrast Rings of Power and She-Hulk. You can watch Rings of Power.
There you go.
Because you don't want to. I can watch She-Hulk because I don't want to.
There you go.
And we'll meet in the middle.
For the most expensive show ever produced, it's got to do something good, right?
The sacrifices we make for this podcast.
Speaking of which, homework. Should I follow up on homework?
I can't even remember what it was.
It was Bugsy Malone and the Haunted Mansion story. Nope. Shaking your head. Nope.
Oh, fail.
Well, that segment is a bust.
Yeah. We've tried to do homework in the past. That doesn't work so well.
Yeah.
We need reminders.
Actually, speaking of animation and motion graphics, Johnny Harris video came across my feed, and I've never watched any of his stuff before, except back from when he worked for Vox. So Johnny Harris was a reporter and a producer at Vox several years ago, and I really like Vox and their documentaries and their style and everything like that. But I came across a Johnny Harris video came across my feed, and I'm like, I'll check it out. And it was really cool because he was talking about how he animates maps and stuff in the videos that he does, and that it was super cool to see, and it got me interested in going. I didn't get a subscription to Skillshare, but I have access to Skillshare, And so I went in and I've started learning motion graphic animation to try and see if I can't inject a little bit of it into my videos. And so I've been geeking out about animation and motion graphics and stuff.
Very cool.
Yeah. So for all the things that we work on or that we're geeking out about, if you want to talk to us individually about it, you can do that. You can find us mainly on Instagram, but we all have our own websites and social media accounts that you can follow us on. For all the things that Sean is doing, you can follow him at Geek Builders. For all the things that Wes is doing or having done to his house, you can follow on Geek Smithing. Separated those two this time. And if you want to see the crazy chaos that I got going on at any moment of any day, you can follow me at Once Upon a Workbench.
And if you'd like to be part of the show, at least when we record live, we record every Thursday evening, 6:30 Pacific, 9:30 Eastern, and 8:30 Central. We record live on YouTube, and you can be part of the fantastic group that we have there in the live chat right now. Always makes the show a lot more fun seeing all the side talk going on. You can also find out more information about the show from our website, makegeeks.com. We have a contact page if you'd like to suggest any topics or any ideas for the show, and you can listen to all of the past episodes right there on the homepage of the website. And we also have a shop with some Making Geeks themed merchandise for you to check out. You can find new episodes of the podcast every Saturday morning on your favorite podcast player of choice. So from all of us to all of you, have a great week.
See y'all later.
And I was muted. See you next time.
Bye.